Good day, gang. It is September 11th, so it's hard to believe this has been 18 years. Um, but yeah, went fast. I still remember watching the markets 18 years ago. Hope you guys are all holding up okay out there. We are currently in forward focus, and we're going to be taking a look at what is going on right now in the overall market. So I am going to begin with Jeremy was asking about the indices here about an hour or so ago. And I expressed concern getting too excited on the bull side of things. Um, I think it was Lincoln, you were saying, I don't know, someone was saying that on September 11th that they try to hold up the markets. They don't focus a lot on the sell side of things. I never actually heard that before, so I don't know where that comes from or if there's any like legitimacy to it or not. But yeah, so we are definitely seeing some weakness here today. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to flip on over here to the charts and I want to show you guys what I was looking at. My question box is not popping out for me. There we go. Lincoln, yeah. I know sometimes I read through things really fast and I don't catch who says everything. So if I misattribute, guys, I'm sorry. All right, let's flip this over. Yeah, I mean, we have so many new participants in the market right now that even if that was the sentiment years ago, I don't know that it would really hold true so much anymore. Like I said, I never really noticed that, but that doesn't mean it was not the case. So here's what we were looking at this morning. And we just had a little baby 2B, by the way, right here. But what we were looking at was this downside move here coming out from prior to the open. And the question is, as this is trying to break higher here, can that really sustain that type of move? And I mentioned that there was something very specific about how this was forming as it was pulling down. Oh, come on, scale properly. That impacted why I wasn't as excited about this as a total reversal. So what's going on here is that this has this move down and then it starts to shift and it kind of widens up. So we get this sort of horn shape going on, megaphone shape going on. And a lot of times, you guys, this can lead to super strong reversals. But there's one trait that is missing. Do you guys know what that is? Within this formation here, what is the key thing that's different this time around than others we've seen in recent weeks? Do you guys know? And it's something I wasn't really thinking about until you guys asked that question this morning. So when I say you guys trigger me to think about things a little bit different ways, that's a good example of it. So what it is that this first portion here, what I usually like to see is that before we start to go too much into this back and forth action, if this comes down pretty quickly, like about like a third of the way, and then it starts to open up, and then around halfway point, we get the bigger swings. Yeah, not so extreme at the start, but then like that is more likely to turn it over. So you know what it is? It is how short that first down wave is and how short that first kind of beginning strength is compared to where this really began to go into the megaphone. So if this leg down was bigger and then it went into like a megaphone like down in here, that's the tilted megaphone, those have better strength. So we will actually see those go further. And again, this is something you guys asking me that question helps me put this into words for you, and then also is going to provide some greater confirmation when you guys are trading that down the road as well. In fact, it's something where I'm probably going to grab a screenshot of this and then look back and grab some of the recent ones that we've been talking about, and then you guys can make comparisons too. So keep that idea or concept in mind. So when it's going down like this, you know, you got kind of like that first rapid start here, and then it starts to widen up. Usually it's like the little ballet foot, and then it kind of goes in and it widens up even more, and then you've got your, you know, your three main legs like that. That's when we usually get a much bigger turnaround. So we have kind of that action in here, but then when it went and turned, you can see that this pop didn't break the channel. So what we would normally see for something that would confirm a further break is that it would actually break through the upper channel, and then we would get continuation. And sometimes it'll break through the upper channel and then you'll see it flush one more time and then it will do a better confirmation. So that can happen too. But it didn't break that channel on an impulse wave. It took this pullback here where we had a baby avalanche and then a bear flag. I think I called that bear flag an avalanche because I was looking at it just a little differently. Um, Let me go back and just look at where that was. So here on the time frame charts, this is a 30-second chart. So what you can see is that, you know, the time frame is about the same. So here was your avalanche, here's kind of your bear flag. So you ended up with 3 waves down. I didn't see this one over here. I just wasn't, I don't know, I was distracted or something. So I just traded this one, but then it went and flipped and we got a little baby phoenix here and then a tilted check mark here before it pops back up. But what this did, you guys, was look at that momentum for the overall channel here. So it confirmed that, hey, you know what? We're not getting that strength that we would normally see for something that would just turn and flip around strongly. What we would normally see instead is this would come up a little bit stronger and you would get a 1, 2, 3 like that. It would pull up enough that it would break the channel. And again, sometimes it will break the channel and then pull back and do, you know, a 2-wave down. It just kind of depends on how tight the channel is there. But it will normally pull up and then give you that confirmation. So you watch this right here. And if it breaks that again, you can, you know, build into it. But it's something I'm going to grab a bunch of examples for and create basically a brand new folder to put those in so that you guys can start to study those as well. So think about that, you know, think about the, it's basically a momentum reversal type of pattern, but instead of getting like the parallel channel, you get a much longer, bigger megaphone type of move. So a little bit different. Anyways, so what that did was it triggered another short over here that was really, really comparable to what we saw in the smaller time frames right there. So anyways, wanted to just kind of do a review on that for you guys. And then, you know, when we back up here to the larger time frames, also look at the momentum. What's going on with our king and our queen here? So when I put Fibonacci time extensions on here on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, and look at what happened. It fell into that really hard, but look at how it just kind of crept out. So if this was going to go with like a megaphone, we would normally see this pick up steam, and it just couldn't. It couldn't get that momentum coming in once we were coming out in past the open here. So instead of, you know, trying to do like an inverse head and shoulders, we didn't see that. And so here's this kind of widening up, megaphone. Here's the like the little foot. This did fall about halfway, kind of gave a little bit of a trap above it. So again, sometimes this can come back down, widen up. We don't really have a big megaphone shift though. It's kind of, this upswing and this upswing about the same. So that isn't giving us that really big megaphone type of shift that we would need to get that turnaround going. A lot of times that will start smaller and then it will widen up and then you'll get the big pop, the big surge in momentum. So we just aren't getting that happening either. So overall bias, I've just been mostly focusing on the short side of things here today. Not too much. I only had one trade on the long side, but we did have a couple of setups. I just didn't trade them. Let me show you guys what those were though. Put it on like a 400. Oops. So we had the Phoenix over here. It's kind of a little wonky because it kind of went to like a higher high in there. So you had the Phoenix that was coming out overnight. Then again, we had, that move off the lows. There's a little bit of a Phoenix in here on some smaller time frames. Kind of widen it up. It's almost like a 1, 2, 3 too, given the way that the time development was on it. And then of course we had the continuation right there. But, overall, not a whole lot. The bears are definitely still trying to hold that upper hand. I'm going to pull up our daily. I'll show you guys our daily chart. So here's our daily. So what we can see on the daily is that we had that incredibly strong impulse move on the downside. It was basically max level for a lot of previous impulse moves. So really strong move down into that first zone of congestion. What do I tell you guys is usually a better zone of congestion if you have a strong move down? What zone tries to hold a little better? Not the first level of previous support. Sure, you might get like little short reactions off of that, but what tends to do a little bit better? The next level, right? So in this case, these are kind of close together. So I am looking at, the center of this, but I'm also not ruling out that we could get that coming back into there too. So, back down into here, because of how far this went, this could shift and come back down into there pretty easily. It wouldn't take a whole lot to visualize it getting to that level, but I definitely would continue to be rather cautious on the upside. One of the things we were looking at was, if we could get a V bounce, a double top would be a possibility. I think we looked at that last week, but we just aren't seeing the intraday action to give us that pattern. So we didn't get the development that we would have needed to have that happen easily. So right now I'm kind of more focusing on downside action as you go into next week. Really be cautious on upside. I'm gonna look at our S&P here. Hold on a second. You can see this is kind of trying to form a mega continuation. What's interesting on this here, you guys, also look at these on the time frame charts. See how they start slowly and then get bigger and bigger and bigger here? And that's kind of interesting because what I'd like to see to get, more confirmed reversals is that you'd have that kind of stronger look as far as the overall channel, and then the channel would widen and the momentum would shift. So you'd have, even though there might be more overlap over here, that momentum would be stronger, and then it would shift like this. But if we look at this channel here, it actually goes the other way. So if this was like to widen up with a megaphone like that, that would still shift the momentum, right? but this didn't do that. So on the time frame charts, you can see that even more clearly than you see it on the tick charts. So that was another thing that I wasn't overly excited about that when it broke up. I was viewing that as more of just another opportunity to short. So now, we're looking at possibility this could go and do another wave down. Volume is pretty light comparatively. Intraday, the momentum's not the best in here quite yet, but it's still playing around in there to have that possibility down. What I would have liked to have seen, you guys, is that when we were bouncing in here, I have to go down to smaller time frame. But when we were bouncing right here, what I would have liked to have seen was this kind of be a little bit more gradual. That would have treated this to a stronger megalanche formation. And maybe it does that by pulling up here again and putting in a second wave up and then shifting. So that could do that. But that's the main pattern I was watching for as a continuation here. It's just it might come back up a little bit more, kind of take out these prior highs here, and then try to go. So especially if volume continues to remain light, that can help do that. So that's what I'd watch for here this afternoon as, kind of the main thing I'm looking at. But again, I want to see more momentum shift back again first. Let's see, what do you guys want to look at for other securities and such? What do you guys have in mind? Here's another kind of megaphone, kind of halfway hybrid, megaphone reversal, momentum reversal into avalanche. And then you can see this is trying to do a little bit of megaphone continuation, kind of messy though, 500 tick here. Here's our daily on the Russell. So you guys can see that beautiful shallow avalanche there. It's like almost picture perfect for a shallow avalanche on that daily time frame. Let's show you on the, I'll put this on a 240 minute. No, I don't have a 240 here. Look at that. And this is pretty close to textbook for what you guys will see for shallow avalanches. So what happens is it has a really extreme move, slow, and then it shifts momentum even farther, and that allows it to do a bigger drop. So again, this still has room. Keep going. Here's our daily. I wouldn't be at all surprised this comes back into this level pretty easily. That 61.8% zone. So an interesting phenomenon in the market as well, you guys, is that when you get like steady moves up, and then you get a longer correction, and then it has like another, 2 waves up or even just a pop to like a higher high. If that pulls all the way back into here, it's really hard for that to try to again recover a lot. So if that has like a really strong move down in there, it's going to be harder for that to recover. We saw that happening this morning in the NASDAQ on the overall market when it tried to break higher this morning. Allowed it to pull back down again. Let's see here. Switch over to some of those other securities you guys are looking at. What would help it move higher? If the momentum was slower on the pullback and the volume dropped on the pullback, which is not the case here. So in order to give this like to serve as like a tilted, phoenix or something, this would need to go into like a range here better with volume dropping, and that could allow it to pop. But if it drops fast into here, that's hard for that to recover. So if it has like a 1, 2, 3 continuation or something into there, that's going to be really hard to recover. There's much better chance that's going to make it all the way back down to here. indices are doing that next wave up I was just mentioning. You see that? So if this holds like this zone up in here, that can still go as a mega land. Just watch for like little tiny potential reversals up there. Well, so far it's doing what we were anticipating, but the momentum's, you know, not slower, so. Here's our euro dollar. Here's the 3-minute. So, you know, this is kind of like the do or die point. You would want it to hold right here. And the reason for that is that right now you still have a pretty slow incremental distance between highs and lows, just kind of expanding a little bit. If you look at like the distance between the low here and then, you know, the move up here, it's about right. So this is basically the do or die point that the bears would want to see hold for a short setup here. We'll come back to this in a couple minutes, see how it does. But in the meantime, let's go look at some of those other securities you guys are asking about. I guess I closed a lot of my charts, so we'll pull it up on here. SFIX. Got a bit of a double top there. See how that did pull back pretty sharply into that congestion? This is kind of having a harder time struggling here to get going again on the bull side of things. Weekly basically just looks like it wants to go into a range for the most part. So if we're looking at this as like kind of a two-wave correction zone in here, and this is the pop to break that upper channel, you know, if that went into like a phoenix or something there on the weekly, that would be cool, but I don't really see much for trend placement here for a new setup other than it's just trying to do a little bit of a double top and potentially a range here. Got two waves up, kind of trapped it, really steep 2T basically. So a lot of times this is just going to kind of chop around here. Hold on 1 second, you guys. So yeah, I think there's a lot of room for this to still try to pull down here on the daily. Which is probably not going to be like a super fast move on it. Here's our ES. I don't know why that's not loading properly, but here. Keep that up in the corner for you guys so you can see what happens here. Again, it's that do or die point there, you guys, so we'll see. Does it do or does it die? And TECK. Yeah, I did short it. That's why I was pausing there. I only put on a small position because I can't follow it really closely while we're in class, but I'm gonna put it up there so we can watch it. TEC. Okay. It just hit what would be like T2, like on the smaller 2T portion. I'll show you guys that in a minute. Have this load. See if it can get loaded for us here. You guys can kind of see that steep 2T right there. So I just put on a small short, took partials off though. Not, we'll see if that goes into the widening up. So normally if I was, focusing purely on the market, I would be looking to build into this, based upon like smaller continuations. If it holds or not, and then just can keep like a really tight stop. Let's see. So TECK, really good example of a gap today, huh, you guys? We've been talking about gaps in League of Traders here this week. So it's cool you guys are focusing on that. Look at that. Here, I'm going to show the time development on this here. So look at this time development. What you guys can see is that this upside move and then the sideways move here, we've got about an even zone. So this is kind of a do or die point for this to try to start to develop into continuation moves. But where this pulled back, it really wasn't enough of a pullback yet compared to this upside here. So what it's doing is it's kind of creating that extra shift. And this is a really good breakaway there. So we get a nice continuation here. You caught that short too on the ES. Nice. So here we have a really nice breakaway gap. It's a check mark. Notice that the gap itself is not really that big though. See how small that is? But it's still a breakaway gap. So this type of move, since it's coming out of this range, it's usually going to be a pretty strong move. And that's what we're seeing intraday. This is where the breakaway gap becomes even more prominent when you're looking at like a 5-minute time frame, because the gap is a lot cleaner and clearer here. So that's a really pretty find. These are ones, again, they mostly just go right away out of the open, which is what we're seeing. And when I get back from vacation, we're going to talk about how to get into these when they're going really quickly. Put my ES up there, keep an eye on it. Whoops. So I'm not switching back and forth on screens. So these are usually ones that will go right away out of the open, like I said. And there's going to be ways that we can get into these and still keep our risk pretty low. Go ES, go. Isn't it cool when you guys get to see a setup actually trigger and play through as we're in class? I got a little bit of an add in. We had, I can't kind of see it on this, but on the 10-second, there was a little check mark in here. So I took my partials in here and then I just got back in, kind of doing advanced trade management on that one. You guys got the NQ? The reason I took the ES was just that the Mega Lanch pattern was much stronger on it. It was just cleaner. So TECK right now, it has potential to do a little bit of an avalanche, but I'm not really too worried about it. It's too much of a break on the larger time frame. So I wouldn't really want to be going against this. Yes, I think, it's hit a good level of resistance in here, but I'm not overly concerned. Here's our mega inch. Look at how perfect. It held like exactly where we said, hey, it has to hold right here. So you're around like 76.4% retracement right here. And again, this is something that can keep going. I mean, this can go all the way down in here and put in a measured move now. So we'll see how that keeps playing out. In the NASDAQ, this is more of like a tilted bear flag type of pattern. Let me pull up the NASDAQ. Or tilted 1, 2, 3 continuation. See that? So you get your tilt here with the 2 waves up, which shifts that momentum. Tilted check mark, you know, it's like that gives us the tilt for it. All right, let's see here. What are some of the other things? DHT. Yeah, you're right at first support here, first main support again. So DHT, we'll go pull that up. This is another, looks like it would have been a good gapper. It's acting here. So you got another breakaway gap here. Does the 2B. And then look at this. So this is really key. League of Traders will be familiar with this setup. You have the 2 shallower levels here and then the breakaway gap. So what do we usually expect at that point, you guys? Yeah, impulse wave. Stronger impulse, and that's exactly what it did. It just continued the gap. So this is another gap that is really good for a buy. And there's still room for that to pull close into that gap there. Watch the impulse wave compared to some of these other previous days. That'll kind of give you an idea, hey, how far is that going to go intraday before we get more of a pause? I wish I took more contracts on that. Yes. That was still really nice. Let's see here. LAUR. Another breakaway. It was kind of maybe a little too early. What do you guys notice about this channel? We talked about this in League of Traders this week. What's going on with that channel? Lots of overlap. So that makes me a little more nervous. See more of the back and forth over here. I would love that, you know, as a gap. You know, here too, more back and forth. But when it's lots of overlap, there's not a lot of the bulls that get flushed out, and there's not a lot of the bears that get flushed out. So what that means is that even when we get gaps, there's still a better chance it can come back into the range. So this one is something I wouldn't generally view as good of a gap. It's a great example, you guys, just to help you like determine, hey, is this a gap I really want to trade as much, or is it more risky? So when we look at this one intraday, yeah, it was able to do a little bit of continuation, but struggling to hold on to it. So even like this could pop again here intraday and then kind of trap and pull back more. I wouldn't be too excited. Even this here, even though it kind of did a little bit of a check mark, I don't know that I would have even traded that. We'll see if it looks better on a smaller time frame. Well, I mean, that kind of looked okay because you can see the 2 waves of pullback there going into that. So that might have been something worthwhile. And then you get the check mark here too. But after that point, look at how that pulled back right there. What's that pullback? A third. Yeah, really rapid, 1/3 after rapid upside. That's your clue that that's not going to sustain that very well most of the time. So your two buys would have been these two. I mean, technically some traders would look at that, but I wouldn't because of, again, what we saw in that daily time frame. I would be concerned. I would want to see confirmation of upside momentum first, and then look for setup. So those are okay as little like scalp trades, but on a daily time frame, not so excited. What else do you guys see here? Yeah, let me show you the update on that ES so you guys can see it when you go back and study. So here's what we're at. This is like the lower end of that mega lanch there. So this is like a first main like mega lanch support area because you're right at that lower channel. A lot of times you want to watch if it falls into the 76.4% extension on a mega lanch, it has a better chance of, continuing. So we are seeing that, but this is a zone that we watch, and I did take some off in here too. What was my entry? I got, hold on, let me go look. Executions here. 33.54.75. So where's that here? Oops. Right here. I'll mark it for you guys. You can't really see that on like this time frame, but the smaller time frame, what it did was there was an itty bitty teeny tiny setup there. Let's see, I have to go down to like a we're basically trying to do a 1, 2, 3 right now, you guys. So let me go down to the smaller time frames and show you. And I just hit market order. I didn't like try to like do anything fancy. I just hit market order on it. See up here? That little avalanche after the 2 waves up. I just hit market order in there. And then what I did was as soon as it came in here, I just had partials, and then here's the like 1, 2, 3, or not the 1, 2, 3, but the little check mark I added on. So you guys can see the details in that when you go back and study this pattern. And right now you can see the shift in here trying to happen, but it's just a 1, 2, 3 here. That's what we want to see happening. That's what I want to see happening. I want to see this going here. So one thing you could do is you can use trailing stops over this high, you might get flushed out, but that's what can help. You try to hold on for a little bit more when you're in a setup like this. You can kind of keep, following it like and adjusting it over each high. And so when you do get a 1, 2, 3, those won't hit. But if it's going to go into a longer range, you might get taken out, see the longer range form, and then get another continuation to get back in it. But when it goes as a 1, 2, 3, it's not going to do that. It'll hold this high. So that's one way you can use more aggressive management on it. And also watch for the measured moves, you guys. So you can see on the NASDAQ, for example, that measured move level is the target, so I'm actually watching that even though I'm also in the ES. I'm not in the NQ, but for those of you that are, let's see here. This is beautiful. SDGR. Are we at targets? Yeah, well, this is loading. Let me show you. So I'm going to look at the ES on the 30-second time frame. And you might even do better if you look at the MES. So I've been using the micros a lot for my timing, and that's why you're seeing most of my charts are posted in the micros now. Sometimes they're just more liquid these days, but let me show you guys the extension here. This is the target. Look at that, we're right at it. But we can also get the smaller measured move here, so it might go a little bit further here because of this 1, 2, 3 attempt that it's on. So that's where you guys can see a target zone there. Look at the volume, nice volume drops. So you guys get like a pretty close to textbook example of a mega lanch here, you guys. Go back and study this. Daily SDGR tilted 1, 2, 3. This is your tilted checkmark pattern. You got your 2 ways down, goes into a tilted checkmark, continuation. You're about halfway. So it's our main support zone, but there's still room for this to pull back. We could definitely see this starting to open up into this zone here, but I would still be very, very cautious on the upside of things right now. This is something we could get pops and flushes either way right now. It kind of almost looks like it wants to flush to the upside. And the reason I say that is that when we look at this here, see how this pops and then it does this? So it didn't really hold here and roll over yet. It's kind of basing here. So if that breaks that zone right there, that might pop and flush one more time. Could even pop to here and flush. What makes me say it can go lower? Just the momentum. So the way the momentum kind of picked up coming out of this zone of congestion here. So a lot of times that will try to widen up more versus just totally flip around. So I think that's why. It's a little bit trickier. I would base it on that intraday. Like I said, if it gives that intraday setup, like if this goes and bases here and breaks up, I would consider that a trigger for a good intraday move and then just kind of watch it from that point. GRPN. Do a couple more here. Notice our ES is holding there. And Q2. We'll see if it just does a widening up there now, though. Am I still in the ES? No. Since I was in class, I just put my exit at measured move for all of the rest. Normally I might have held a little bit though, because of how fast it hit. I just didn't this time. Multitasking. So this move here on GRPN, really similar to like what we saw on some of, I can't remember what the other security was we were looking at earlier, but remember it did kind of like the same thing. It gapped up and it hasn't continued yet, but it has that potential to then continue. This one is kind of at a zone where I'm like, is this going to do like a momentum reversal plus type of move? Trap people here by putting in like a slightly higher high and then flip back over. That's the feel that I've got going on with this one. We might see this go into a trap where you get like a momentum reversal plus type of thing. So I don't really like this yet for another continuation. Even if we get an intraday breakout, I wouldn't generally want to trade that unless it was a day trade. When I put my target a little further than a measured move, how do I manage stop loss in case it doesn't get to that? That's a good question. So a lot of times I'm going and watching it manually. I'll have it, let me go back to the ES and show you guys what I would normally be doing right now if I had held anything. What I usually expect is that it will hold like the 76.4%. And so what I would watch for is as it tries to do like two wave move up. So if it does a two wave and bases, then a base in that break would get me out of the rest of the trade. And you can sometimes get it going on a bigger scale. So you might get two waves up like that and then hold that and go. So you have to decide how much are you willing to do? How much are you willing to hold that? Usually what I'll do is I'll start doing advanced trade management, like get out of most, maybe add back in if there's a short, get out, add back in, kind of, play around at the bottom just the same way that I would at the top. But yeah, the easiest part, especially for new traders, is put an order to exit ahead of that measured move. So if the momentum is the same, then you're getting out as it's going into that level. Let me look at my executions. I'll tell you where I got out. Oops. So it filled me right at 335.25, which I think was better than I thought. I had my order in at 335.50, but I got filled at 335.25. I know that the 100% was at 334, but 335 being kind of like one of a round number type of thing, I kind of played off of that too. A lot of times I'll think in terms of fives and tens and stuff. So right here, let me show you. Go down to the smaller time frame. This is the 30-second. I'm going to show you this on the 10-second for see how this can go into a second two wave. So this is what I would do is if this was having kind of a slower move up into that 76.4, I wouldn't really worry. But then if it slid down here and didn't like go and immediately go, then I might not want to hold for second wave up. So I would just go and exit at some point in here and just get out of the rest of the trade. Because if it does two waves up, a longer base, and then tries to break again, it could do another two waves up. So that's what you want to watch, especially if volume drops. It didn't really do that in here. It's kind of indifferent, but especially if volumes drops, because essentially that would be triggering a Phoenix. On this one, momentum was basically even, so it makes sense that it's trying to hold the 100%. But still, I might have looked for a measured move here to here. just not gotten it in this case. Or it will go there, but it's going to pop up to that next fib level first before it tries again. Let's see. Did I miss any guys' questions? If there's one you want me to take a look at that I didn't pull up, please go ahead and repost it for me. NAK? So I'll do two more here before we wrap up. I'm curious, how many of you guys caught that short? I saw a couple of you post, but I'm just interested how many you did. Definitely go back and study it. If I had tons of time, I would go back and edit this video and just pull out that setup for you guys to follow as it unfolds. You know, NAK, pull up really fast. Usually this would kind of round over. Let's look at this intraday. Nicole can do that. That would be so awesome if you did that for us, Nicole. Edit out everything that goes and just shows us that setup, because we can throw it in on a Mega Lunch educational video. So I'm kind of viewing this as rounding off. So this doesn't have two steady moves up. If I had two steady moves up, I would like it more for Phoenix. But since it popped and then went to like a 2T-ish move and then is trying to shift, I think if it tries to break higher, it could be more of a trap. So yeah, this looks like it has potential to do a lot of traps on people, you guys. You've got the measured move there on the downside. It did pop a third, but then it's rounding. So I don't know. I would personally stay away from this. I mean, if I was already in it, I would say, it could go and do a two-wave move back, and maybe I would keep a stop like here on the rest of the position and watch like if it tries to do like an avalanche or something, like especially if it does a shallow avalanche, I would get out because then that could even blow through that. So maybe a stop on the books here, but then watch to possibly tighten it up. That's if I was already in that. If I wasn't, it's not something I would be looking to get into. And then NVAX, let's look at that one. By the way, the NASDAQ or the ES is right at that second level of resistance that we were looking at right now. It is, look at this. Look at where he is at. He is right at it. So see, it did the two waves up, and then this is the next chance that he would have to hold there. I drive my husband crazy because I refer to things as he and she when it's actually an it, but yeah, we'll see if he holds there. So yeah, if you're doing advanced trade management, that could be a zone that you could build back into it, try again at that point. If this overall momentum was faster than it was on the first drop, I would have been more prone to holding something. Since it was the same amount of time though, that's when, if I was doing advanced trade management, I would have gotten out and then waited for a second wave up. He and she, I'm speaking about the king and queen. Oh, that's perfect, Jeff. Validation. But beautiful, beautiful example, you guys. All right, let's see, where did my NVIX go? It's hiding in the background there. Here we go. This is a great example too of stuff that we've talked about. See how extreme that is? And then it kind of is shifting momentum on the continuation. So this I would expect, to kind of keep doing more back and forth action in here. Just expect the range to widen up again now at this point. But I don't really see a strong setup in this yet right now. Just more of a back and forth widening up. This is even one of those things where it can start to go like that, That's even possible here at this point. So to wrap up here on our ES setup, when it did, that second wave up shifted here, triggered the place to potentially add back into it. Notice the 1, 2, 3. We've been focusing on the 1, 2, 3 strategy all week in League of Traders last week. So we've got that really nice 1, 2, 3 example, and that makes this our next support level here. Again, larger time frame, still pretty bearish, but that still makes this zone our next major support zone. And this is where I would again be covering. All right, you guys, so thank you for joining me here today. I hope you learned a lot with regards to getting to see this trade play out live as well. And we do not have session next week, you guys. I am on vacation, and we are going to try to do Zoom the following week after that. We kind of had a whoopsie daisy when I was testing out my settings on Zoom yesterday for our study group. But Lincoln suggested that I just do it as a room, and then I don't have to have it set up as a meeting. So that's what I'm going to try. So we'll do that for next week, or not next week, but the week after. So you guys stay safe out there, and I will see you all back here in 2 weeks.